And we are back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 40 of Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Jeremy Vilmer, the living proof that crushing depression and alcoholism will make you lose weight if you stick with it long enough. And joining us now, the star of our show, Bobby fucking Blaze. What's happening, Bobby?
Hey, Bobby, get your head out there. Man, Jeremy, I gotta tell you, buddy, I'm going to have to tell one of myself this week, man. You know, I went up to Madison, West Virginia there last week, and you know, I used to travel those roads all the time for Smoky Mountain scenes and this and that. And I traveled those roads, and it brought back a lot of memories, man. And I had forgotten about it until I passed it, and it brought back this memory. I used to eat this little cafe up there that also across the street from it. I'll just get to it. Anyway, so I go in there, and this happened several years back, so I just kind of old news. But I got to tell you, man, I just, you know, just going back in time, I went in there and I ordered me a bowl of chicken noodle soup, okay?
Okay.
It was kind of chilly out. I thought I warmed the bones. I just got a few more miles to the town. So I go in, place is kind of dead, and I happen to know the waitress because it's small town, USA, you know. And I get me a bowl of chicken noodle soup, and, you know, she's like, hey, Bobby, how you doing? You wrestling up the road here? Yeah, whatever. So I go and I start taking a couple bites, Jeremy, and I find a fucking hair in it. In my chicken noodle soup, man.
No.
I look up, and, of course, the waitress, it's got a big, long black hair in it. I look, the waitress has, you know, long brunette, which, you know, I like, but I'm like, I don't like it in my chicken noodle soup. So I call her over and I said, look, I found a hair in here and I'm not paying for this fucking chicken noodle soup. And she goes, that's not like you. You always, no matter what, I said, I don't care. That's it. So I get up. Well, it's one of those places up there in wild, wonderful West Virginia, okay, home of the wild and wonderful Whites, if you've never seen that, Jessica White and his sister Sue Bob White. I mean, you're talking about the dancing outlaw kind of territory. Mm-hmm. Well, they got a house of the ill repute across the street. And, you know, it's nothing for me to visit one of these, you know, cat houses, house of the ill repute, whatever. I just get up and go. I said, fuck, couldn't eat soup. I just get up here and go, you know, I'll get me a little whore or whatever. Still got a few miles to go for the show. I got some time to kill. So I go in, I get me a room, you know, and I go in there. And I proceed to go to town. And as I'm going to town, and you know, I'm a pretty oral kind of person, Jeremy, I ain't gonna lie about it. Well, about the time I'm just in there, and the door kicks open, and it starts yelling, and I recognize it as that fucking waitress's voice. She goes, look at you, you dirty SOB. She called me everything, you know. I mean, it's worse than a damn truck. Anyway, she says, look at you. I want you to look at you. You wouldn't pay for that damn chicken noodle soup because it had one lousy hair in it. And here you are buried up to your fucking shoulders in a pussy full of hair. You lousy bastard. You. Man, I had enough. I popped my head on that pussy and I try and look at that waitress and I said, yeah. And if I find a noodle in this, I ain't paying for it either. Yes, that's kind of where I've been at, man. I haven't had my head up my ass, but I got to get my head out of there, Jeremy. And Adam is listening. We had a couple guys from Madison listening, and I had to tell them that story, and I hope they appreciate it. So I thought this week I better tell one on myself because I always tell one on someone else. Yeah. And that's what happened. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I ain't paying, you know,
that's
for a
fair.
fucking chicken noodle soup hair in it.
So
or a pussy with a noodle in it.
Did you find a noodle? Because that would be disgusting.
I stopped looking.
Yeah.
I kept my eyes.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, I mean, here's the thing, you know, as a man or, as, you know, I assume even a woman, if you're into going down on a chick, you end up with a mouthful of hair at some point. But I don't want a bowl of soup between me and that. So, you know, that shit's not right.
No noodles, man. No noodles.
All right.
But it's good to be back in the air, man.
Yeah,
well, a lot of stuff to catch up on.
I think we might have just lost a quarter of our audience, but you know what? That's okay. That's all right. We're gonna roll with this shit. This week, you know what, Bobby? We're just gonna talk about the top 10 things that you and I want to talk about this week.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just like blow some fucking doors real quick.
Okay.
Audience, we fans, listeners, friends of ours. Obviously, we've missed a couple weeks. You know, in the last year, my dad died. I lost my job. I had a heart attack. My wife up. I am not okay most of the time, but I'm trying my best to keep the show going because it's one of my bedrocks in my life right now. So we have missed a little bit here and there. It's my fault, you know. But I have to say, I've lost 32 pounds in 2 months, and I look pretty fucking good with my shirt off. So single women out there, hit me up. Let me know what you're doing because I'm looking pretty good. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of cover. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of cover that real quick, and you know, people, because I do get messages throughout the week like, where's the episode, blah blah blah. So you know, Bobby and I, when we do this, when we record this show, we usually record on Sunday. That's what's worked out best for us. We can do it early in the day. Nobody's fucked up. There's nothing really wrong yet. Blah blah blah. So I know I know already if Sunday or Saturday night comes up and he and I are going, well, let's record during the week. I can tell you already, there ain't going to be a fucking show that week because we've said that a time or two, and both of us need the fuck out when that happens. Yeah. So this week, you know, the last 2 weeks, I've been kind of fucked up.
I had to do it. Oh, we do that from time to time, and I know Army has told me these things, and I appreciate that sharing it because we do have out there listen to us, and that's just life. That things happen like that, but we don't typically bring it up. So generally, if there is not a reason, and Jeremy nailed on the head, if we say we're going to record through the week, one of us is not going to make it through the week because by the time he gets off in California time and I'm logging on, I'm probably either gone or he's coming on gone. So we just say, you know what, let's try to hit it, and we hit it on a Saturday or Sunday. And that's just what's worked best for us. And I've known these things that's happened to Jeremy, and I especially, you know, he'd tell me we met around the time he was losing his father, and we actually hit it off. And that's how this podcast came. He had me on as a wrestler and an author. Then he had me come back on, and we talked off the air before. Had a podcast on his Geekish Cast, and then we talked after. And the same thing happened when he had me back on just as an author about trying to, you know, market books and things. And we just really hit it off. And so I knew he had went through some things, and I go through some things. Winters are very hard on me. I'm kind of a seasonal depression kind of person, and that's what happened to me Monday. I was worn out on Sunday from the trip, which we'll be talking about, but then Monday it got cold and cloudy, and I was like, blah, I'm back in wintertime. So, you know, it's on both of us, but we do, I'll say this, and I don't think I sent Jeremy the top part of my notes, and basically it was just a shout outs, and that's what I'm doing right now. I said shout outs and book plugs because the shout out are just to you all, the people that tune in. We do have a loyal fan base, and really everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking just Jeremy talking, me talking, our top tens, or just us BSing around. That's kind of what this session is going to be about. So thanks for hanging in there, man, and thanks for sending those direct messages. You can send them to Jeremy at the Geekish Cast on Twitter. You can send them to me at Bobby Blaze 744 on Twitter, or the joint account, which is Bell to Bell Blaze on Twitter. And we do get them messages that say, you know, hey, what's happening? Everything okay? And I will say this, there's about 3 or 4 people that's written me that I just answered back that, you know, yeah, Jeremy's fine. We just needed some time off or whatever without saying too much. And he just now explained some things he was going through. But there's actually about 3 or 4 people, and I won't mention their names, but they've written me and said, hey, man, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Hey, is Jeremy okay? And where's the show? That started off generally, where's the show or what's happening, you know? And so now everyone kind of is up to date, knows what's going on. And also, man, the same thing with – we're going to be talking about wrestling in just a minute. Some of the things we wanted to talk about, and that is, you know, we're just 2 guys that BSing, giving our opinions, your opinions. We kind of feed off of that when it's a suggestion for a top 10, or how did so and so not make this, as we explained in the past. And so we're just 2 guys, and we live our life, man. We got a lot of shit going on too outside the podcast, and that's not an excuse, but as Jeremy just explained, there's a lot of good reasons. And I think there's a big difference between having an excuse and having a reason. And we really haven't sat around and made an excuse other than during the week saying, you know, hey, this is not an excuse. This is a reason. I'm fucked up. We ain't recording or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, honestly, to you fans, and if you're new to the podcast, we welcome you aboard. But 9 times out of 10, there's a good reason we didn't put up one that week. It's usually not an excuse. So anyway, there's that. And oh man, we better get any more shout outs out there, Jeremy, while we're talking. I don't know.
You know what? I'm gonna skip shout outs this week again. I'm coming from a weird place. Yesterday would have been my dad's 70th birthday, so I drank for 2 all day yesterday. It was a rough day, Bobby.
Oh God.
It was a rough. I drank for 2 on 2 separate occasions yesterday. I went out, got drunk, came home, went to bed, got up, got drunk again. So,
damn.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
Man. When your father dies from alcohol-related liver failure, and you have to drink for him because he's not here to do it anymore, it's quite the commitment. That's all I'm gonna say. You know, I took a lot on me, so the rest of you didn't have to. Because I could have spread this out over the whole country, and it could have been uglier, but I did it myself. I don't want to throw around the word hero casually, but I'm going to this time.
Well, for that, we thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah. My liver.
I wish your liver a speedy recovery. Yeah.
Oh,
so I don't know how you're here today, because but hey, I'm glad you're here nonetheless, man. Oh, that's good to know. Well, let's do this real quick. As you know, folks, we've got to pay the bills, and we don't have any ones out there sponsor. They want to sponsor Miller Lite. If you want to send a Kentucky whiskey, it don't matter, man. Just a Dr. Pepper, ginger ale, whoever. It's $35 an episode. Send us a sponsor. We'll give you a shout out. What can I say? But you know what we do? We've got two sites. I've got some books out there. Jeremy, tell them about Pin Me, Pay Me, and tell them about I Kicked Out on 2 where you can get those. So hopefully you can sponsor a show that way, and hopefully you'll enjoy what I've written out there, and currently trying to work on some more stuff too. So anyway, tell them, Jeremy.
Well, absolutely. Guys, you can go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1 to get Bobby's first book, Pin Me, Pay Me. You can also go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2 to get I Kicked Out on 2, The Education of a Wrestler. If you want some background and some context to what it's like to be a working pro wrestler and let's face it, during the fucking heyday of pro wrestling, what I refer to as the modern golden age, WCW, when fucking Goldberg was there. These are the books to read, man, because Bobby was there, Bobby worked these shows, Bobby rode in the car with these guys. If you want an understanding of what it's like to be a working wrestler, buy his books. Also, if your table's a little unbalanced, buy one of the books and put it under your short leg, and that way your table will sit right in the kitchen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
I think Bob Cook done that.
Yeah.
My friend down Ford, I think Bob Cook, hell of a worker back in the day, but I think he bought my book just to balance out his pinball machine.
Well, pinball machines, you don't want to tilt those. You don't want to tilt those. That is for sure.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's got multiple uses. You don't have to read it, No.
Because you know what? Because I am firmly of the belief that most people don't read anymore.
Yeah.
But you need to buy the book either way, because we got to keep the show going. Come on, people.
That's right.
Get off your ass. Buy the book. I don't know what do I have to say? Do you need me to come reshingle your roof? I'll come do it. That's fine. Just buy a couple goddamn books, would you? We're doing this week in and week out for your entertainment. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Someone buy Jeremy a drink and tell him to calm down over there, would you? Well, we're not doing an actual top 10, but one of the things that our last podcast we talked about was WrestleMania, which was coming up, and we did our top 10 WrestleMania moments, and so I'm going to start us off with just a little kind of a broad topic and throw it out there. Last week was WrestleMania. They had the Hall of Fame and Takeover, and I was just going to talk about a couple of things concerning that, and also, going to, as I mentioned earlier, going up to Madison, West Virginia, and I'll get to that in the second part of the show. But, Jeremy, I watched Mania, and based on our top 10 list that we had done, and you can listen to that on episode 39, and that's the one where I talk about Melanie coming over. Mm-hmm. But anyway, thankfully she's gone. But anyway, nonetheless, WrestleMania, I'm going to have to say, I think I can safely say from what I saw, and I only stayed up till 11 o'clock. The show went on until 1 o'clock in the morning on the Eastern Standard Time over here. It was like a 7-hour show. I enjoyed it, but I'll have to say I don't know that there's any moment that I watched this past, last week that's going to ever get into my top 10. It just, to me, and I'm again, as Jeremy and I have told everyone before, we don't come in here and shit on people. We don't, browbeat everyone and this and that. I think the guys that got to work the entire weekend, whether it was TakeOver, and congratulations to the Hall of Fame crew. We'll talk about that in a minute. But also Mania, I think they're incredible athletes. Some of them are incredible wrestlers and workers, if you will. But I didn't have any really top 10 moments. I enjoy what I did see. But I have to say, I think the show was average at best. I look forward to that weekend every year. Again, I enjoyed it. I was not disappointed, but I don't think there was anything that really popped me per se. And that's not a dig, Jeremy. That's just kind of my opinion. So,
well, so for a lot of current WWE stuff, I go to my brother, Dustin Rhodes-Vilmer, and ask him what's going on. And he told me, he goes, there were 16 matches, and yet there were still 2.5 hours of people talking bullshit for no fucking reason.
Yeah. Well, I thought it went really well. You need a host and you have to do all this other stuff. And, but I'll say that the team that on Friday, the War Machine, had a great opening tag match on TakeOver. And I thought that, man, and then, they actually debuted, I guess, on Raw on the Shakedown on that following Monday as the Viking Experience. Those two guys and there's a lot of guys there and girls that can work their ass off. I was happy to see that, because I don't watch the product all year. I hear things, read things, and like you, I have talked to, like you got your brother, I talk to people too. There was some incredible matches. I'll say this about Mania. I will say this, that I do like. It's kind of like we talked about the Undertaker streak and getting into it a few years back, 5 years back at 30. I was surprised when it happened. Well, the good thing about it is on Mania, I was surprised that Kurt Angle I shouldn't say I was surprised because he's such a professional, but I was surprised that that's the only words coming to mind, that he lost his final match, there on Mania. And also I was taken back a little bit. I really thought that I knew Rousey probably had some other plans outside of WrestleMania once that's over, but I was really thinking Charlotte Flair. I thought the Queen was going to get the title, and they put it on the man, Becky Lynch. And so, that kind of, those two matches actually were two I didn't watch. I read about the next night, and then I watched it later on the network due to one of my friends. He always hooks me up there and gives me a screen. But, that's the good thing when they throw swerves at you. I do like that, I do like when they throw swerves at you. And I have to say this, that I didn't like the match itself with Batista and Triple H, and they look good. They get out there and their stuff. I'll say, and I don't even want to mention the sledgehammer shit, but Batista falls through the ropes getting into the ring, and I almost wish that was a comedy spot for him, but I hate that because, all the build up and the hype, but thankfully everyone's professional enough and they recovered. But I had about 3 or 4 people this week say, man, did you see Batista tripping? And they laugh at it. I'm thinking, man, first of all, you've never been out there in front of all those people. And I haven't been in front of that kind of crowd myself, so don't get me wrong. And I think Batista's doing great work as an actor, so that's not a dig to him. But I thought, when people tell me, I don't bury him or anything, I just say, you just don't know, man. You're out there from a live crowd. Anything can friggin' happen. But I felt kind of bad for Dave there going, oh, man, he tripped through the ropes. But overall, just average for me. But I did enjoy it. With that said, did you hear about the Hall of Fame speech and what happened to Bret Hart?
I did hear about that. Also, real quick before we go to that, though.
Yeah, sorry. I just kind of
No. It's fine. I wanted to go back to the women's match. This was the first time a women's match headlined WrestleMania.
I like that.
Big fucking deal.
About that. Yeah.
Big fucking deal. Also, the 3 women that did it, fucking phenomenal stars. I do want to say I would watch Becky Lynch read a phone. And I'll just leave it at that. So let's hear
No
about
doubt.
the Hall of Fame, Bobby.
Okay, yeah. Well, also, let me say this. And Asuka, who they had taken the title off of, she could have easily been in that main event as well. I'm gonna put that out there.
You know what? You're
so they could
absolutely
have had
right.
4 of them out there. Any of those 4 women, if they wanted to do a 4-way, if they wanted to do a tag, whatever they want to do. So they've got a ton load of talent of other ladies that work there as well. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up because that is important. And shout out to those women. Mania that away, it's the biggest wrestling event in the world every year. And so again, I wasn't making a dig out, just saying to me it was average. But actually, when you say that with the girls on top, that does put it over the top a little bit better.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame. So Bret Hart's in the ring, and he's talking. And Natalia, I guess it is, she's in the ring with them, and they inducted the Hart Foundation, Brett and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and fucking someone comes through the ropes and tackles Brett. And I have to say, I thought it was a work. I thought, man, how can you get past security? And in this kind of in today's in this world, man, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen and who's going to do what at any given time. It could have been worse than what it was. But yeah, I wouldn't even say guys are fans. Some idiot fucking gets through and gets into the ring and he tackles Bret Hart. Of course, when he does that, I thought it was a work until I watched the next day. I watched some footage from different angles, and it obviously was not. But man, you got about 35 guys that just jumped up in there on top of them. The problem I have with that, first of all, anytime you cross the barricade, especially if you do get in the ring, you're fucking toast. People's got each other's back. You're fucking stupid for doing it. Don't do it, people. But here's what happens. Everyone's just waylaying, kicking, throwing. I couldn't tell because the guy looked like he covered up pretty good. Again, that's why I thought it was a work, because everyone's trying to put the boots to him and throwing punches, and other half the guys are trying to pull him out of the ring. Some people are checking on Brett, Natalie, or whatever. But anyway, what happens next is they get him out, and it's obviously not a work, and as we all know now, but as they get him out, he's secured, if you will, and Dash, man, he gets off a right hand, but the guy's, he's being held pretty much, and he gets punched right in the face. It's a hell of a punch. But again, once you're outside the ring, once that guy's secured, he's being hauled off. I think there may be some lawsuits there on both parties. I don't know what's going to happen. I just think that, first of all, like I said, he shouldn't have crossed the barricade. Once he gets in the ring, he's open game or fair game, if you will. But once they get him out, whether it's other wrestlers, whether security, whoever, once they got his hands and he's pretty much secure, I don't know that you should be open. I'm glad he got punched. Don't get me wrong. The guy has any balls at all, he won't try to sue anyone. He'll say, you know what, I fucked up. But I do think that with anything, I think, there might be some other things going on there. I haven't read or seen anything as to that happening, but yeah, that was the only thing I thought. I was glad he got got knocked out, but I kind of wish it had happened instead of dogpiling a guy, you know what I'm saying? If a couple of them would have just got him down and wore him out right there in the ring, then it's case closed, So, that happened. It's pretty exciting because, again, I thought it was a work, and a couple people tweeted me, and they said, no, I don't think so. And then the next morning, as I said, I had some early obligations on Monday. I went to bed. By the time I took care of those obligations on that Monday, I started reading later in the day and seeing some different angles, and I thought, well, it definitely wasn't a work, But that was pretty wild for that to happen in this day and age, because I'm gonna be a little bit redundant with things that's going on in the world, folks. When something like that happens, it really could have been a lot worse. You've got all those people, thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people in the New York metropolitan area to watch a WrestleMania. And if that's the least thing that didn't go right, then they came out pretty good, because a shitload of other stuff could have happened with someone getting in that ring or something happening outside that building or within a building rather, or just in that area with that weekend taking place around the New York metropolitan area. So there again, man, it's just one of those things. You're thankful that that's the least of the problems, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
the simple fact of the matter is, if you are in the audience and you go into the wrestling ring, you deserve to have your ass kicked. Period.
yes.
These, guys, okay, use the F word or say whatever you want about pro wrestling. Those guys are still fucking athletes. Those are guys who train on a daily basis. Those are guys who should not be fucked with when you see them. I mean, there's, get your bullshit out of your head. Those aren't guys, those aren't your buddies. These guys are fucking trained fucking athletes who will put the fucking boots to you and stretch your ass. Don't leave the audience and go to the ring. I don't care if we're talking WrestleMania. I don't care if we're talking a local fucking show in somebody's garage. Don't fucking do it. There.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Well, with that said, anything else about Mania, Takeover, Hall of Fame, Jeremy, before we shift gears here?
No, I think that pretty much covers me.
Yeah, we just want to touch base about it. So, we kind of did. I'm going to talk about my trip to West Virginia, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I mentioned the wild, wonderful West Virginia up there, Madison had a packed house. The Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express, all four of them were there. Dennis Condrey, I got to meet him. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton. And so I got to see a lot of people. And one of the ones I'm going to start off with, I got to talk to Bobby Fulton. And as he told me up there, he said, Bobby, call me sometime. We haven't talked on the phone for a while. And I think that's the first time I've seen Bobby for probably about 6 months. And I love Bobby Fulton, man. I'm going to talk about Bobby Eaton in a minute too, folks. But it's good to catch up, Bobby. I know he had his retirement show last May, and there were several people at the show. Nate from Wide Men Can't Jump, he and I were talking and said, yeah, for someone that's retired, Bobby Fulton sure is staying booked a lot. But he went out there and they did a little thing. They had a proclamation with the local the politicians in the area. Stephen P. New put it on. They got all this different stuff. The ASW, Gary Dameron does a terrific job up there, and I was really glad to see it. And one of my highlights, the first one I mentioned about, was talking to Bobby Fulton again from the Fantastics. So he looked good. He's doing good, and still in the ring even though he retired. And you know how that goes in wrestling. Terry Funk, not dropping names or anyone about retirements, but anyway, that was pretty cool. And one thing I got to do also was meet Tex. And I got to meet Tex and his wife, and Tex does our graphics and our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And our YouTube channel can be found at tinyurl.com/BBBB video. And we have almost 3,800 subscribers on there. And Tex does a terrific job talking. Jeremy and I, he takes our top 10s, or he takes us when we go on a little bit of a rant and goes this way and that way. And he puts some footage and background and graphics to it and videos. And it's wonderful. And it was really cool to hang out with Tex. He's a really nice guy. He's looking forward to meeting Jeremy one day. I know that, and you have expressed that as well. Mm-hmm. And we'll all get together at a show one day, hopefully. But anyway, like I said, hit us up at the tinyurl.com/BBBB video and see some of Tex's work. And also you can catch up on some of our shows, especially if there's that little hiatus sometimes when there's a week or two in between shows. Go on to YouTube and check it out, man. There's some pretty good stuff on there. One of my favorites, even though I said we don't shit on people or browbeat people, and we really didn't do it, was the WWE Hates Wrestling rant that Jeremy and I got on. Jeremy kind of got on it before I did, but it was a good deal, and I'm going to bring it up because we're talking about Mania there. That's one of the ones Tex, he took our voices, and it's done very classy, because, again, we were just talking, and it came up in conversation. And, this is a pro wrestling show, if you will. And so anyway, I've got Bobby Fulton out of the way and Tex out of the way.
Well, you know what? I just want to say this to give some people some context. Bobby and I, if you think about us together on this show, me and Bobby are each one of one pair of boots. So he's the left foot, I'm the right foot, or whatever. And you know, me, I wear Chelsea boots on a daily basis. If I polish them, they'll work as dress shoes. If I don't polish them, they look like cowboy boots. It's fine. They're good. They're cool. What Tex is Tex is a fucking coat of polish on the boots. What he does with what we say and puts in context and finds things to support and puts them up on YouTube, takes the bullshit we dribble out and fucking turns it into something worth not just hearing, but also watching. Because he puts it in context. Yes. He does things with it that I go back and watch those videos every few weeks, and, you know, Tex will throw a couple up, and I'm like, okay, I forgot we talked about this, but shit, you know, what he found here either, you know, it either bears us out or it proves us wrong. But, you know, he gives context and depth and history to what we're saying. It is completely needed and necessary, and I appreciate the shit out of him doing it. And I'm sorry I missed you guys. If I had known, you know, 8 months ago the direction my life was going to turn, I would have just bought some fucking plane tickets and flown out there for that show last week.
Man, well, we'll get up together again.
No, I know.
We'll get up together again. But, yeah, he does a really good job. And again, you know, just go to the YouTube channel, because I do the same thing. I'll forget we talked about something, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And then, like you said, a lot of times, and we brought this up before, sometimes our memories of our wrestling days or wrestling band fans, spectators, if you will, we might miss it here or there, but there's a lot of them where a lot of other professionals and a lot of other people give the same views we do, that proves that we are right, that, you know, okay, we might have missed a date here. We you know, said it happened this way, but, you know, there'll be some other professional wrestler that Jeremy, that Tex finds that Jeremy, I'll say something, and Tex will find someone else saying, you know, and this is the way it happened. It's right there, spot on, man. It gives you that context, and it just kind of verifies a much needed part of this show, really. I do the same thing. I go back and listen to some of them. And it's not that I like to hear my voice. I know Jeremy probably loves to hear his voice, because Jeremy's got a great professional voice for doing this. I've got a face for podcasts that don't go up live, okay? But if he can find some old footage when I looked halfway decent, then I appreciate that. But the way I look now is like I don't want to be on video. But anyway, Jeremy's got I have the face for the voice podcast. Jeremy has the fucking actual voice for the podcast and radio and TV, and it all ties in together really nice. So we appreciate that. And it was cool to hang with them. We'll get together in the future and hang with them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Good deal on that, man.
Yeah.
Someone else I got to see, man. Big shout out to Hustler Rip Rogers, man. I got to talk to Rip, and that was great. He was the one that I popped when I heard it, that he was going to be the one inducting the Midnight Express into the ASW Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
And Rip is just one of those guys, man. I think he has trained over 54, I think it's 54, maybe a couple more now, people that have went on to successful careers in the WWF/WWE over the years. He still looks great. Rip looks great, man. And he can still tell a story. Follow his Twitter account. I think it's Hustler. Drawing a blank. Hustler 50. Have to look it up, Jeremy. Come back to that. Ignay that, whatever you got to do. If you care to look it up real quick, I'd appreciate it. But anyway, he has this great Twitter account. I'm going to have to look it up myself all of a sudden. But anyway, his Twitter account is really, if you're aspiring to be a young pro wrestler, or if you're a veteran in the wrestling business, man, Rip is where it's at. Hustler 2754. Go visit his Twitter account. It's Hustler 2754. I knew I'd get them numbers asked backwards. But anyway, he puts out some wisdom, and he still shows, you know, his workouts on there and stuff like that. But, man, he and I spoke about some places we had been together, because I got to actually wrestle with Rip. Rip used to come to Ashland with ICW, with the Macho Man, Leapin' Lanny, and that group there back in the day, ICW wrestling. And I watched him as a young man, young boy, I should say. And then when I got into the business, I got to go to the Maritimes that he had been in before. I got to go to South Africa, where he had been at before. And we've talked about this before. Then when I started working for Bobby Fulton shows, Rip and I worked as heels on the show, of course. And I never forget, Rip was, and I told him, it was one of the first things I told him the other night was, I said, yeah, man, I said, you smart, because Bobby Fulton and him actually had a table together. But I told Rip, I said, you're the one that smartened me up to the captain matches. Bobby Fulton runs me shows, and he might only have like 8 people on the show, 8 people and a referee. But the first match would be a captain's match where a babyface would wrestle a heel, and someone would get screwed, which would be, of course, the heel, and it would set up the captain's match because he'd go back and find someone to come back out in a tag team match later on. And the captains are established for the night and blah, blah, blah. And Rip had told me, see, he got that from Dallas. He got that from your old territory there, Jeremy, WCCW. He'd take out the spot shows that they might send like 8 people, 6 or 8 people out to him and do, 3 matches and then a 6-man or 3 matches and a battle royal, things like that, and Bobby used to do that on some of these small shows. The good thing about it was it gave the guys a paycheck. It gave you might not ever work on a show on a Wednesday night. Smoky Mountain didn't run a Wednesday very often. Well, Bobby might run a Wednesday on some small town somewhere, and you'd be lucky enough to be one of those 8 guys, to be on that show. So it's pretty cool. And Rip, he's one of my favorite people as far as telling stories and stuff. And man, someone suggested, I don't know if we can get him on this podcast or not, if we got Rip to be a guest on here. The only thing is, I think he talks more than I do, Jeremy. And that might be a 3-hour podcast.
Well, you know what?
So I don't know.
Okay, if you can get Rip Rogers, if you get Bobby Fulton, if you want to get a guest on this show, Bobby, and they talk a long time, then fuck it. I'll make it into 3 episodes. I will make the content work. How about that? I mean, look, we work pretty hard to stay to an hour or less. We try to do that.
Right.
That is something I actually feel pretty strongly about, that you've only got so much time to dedicate to any form, medium, or piece of entertainment. So I want to keep it shorter. I want to make it accessible. But if you get somebody on, and you want one of these guys to come on, or one of your buddies wants to come on, and the guy talks a lot, fuck it. We'll make it into 3 episodes. I don't care. We'll make it work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I may shoot Rip a text there. I may do that because I think he'd be a really good guest. I know he's been on several other podcasts.
I think he would be an amazing guest for us.
I'll see what I can do. I'll speak to Bobby Fulton. I think we've got some, going back to the YouTube thing real quickly, I think we've got some really neat stuff coming up from what I understand. I think some people gave us some shout outs. I haven't seen them. Tex sent me one, but I could not open it. But anyway, I will eventually get that, I'm sure. And I think some other people gave us some plugs, and I'm looking forward to hearing those. And if nothing else, they'll be over on the YouTube channel if we don't get them over here on this podcast for cold openings or whatever the inside jargon is on that. But anyway, the other thing, I got to meet Dennis Condrey. I've never met Dennis, and I'll say this: Dennis looked real good. He kicked cancer's ass, and good for him. He looked really good. He would come over to speak to Tracy Smothers, and I was standing there and introduced myself, of course, talked for just a brief moment. And then, when he got away from that, it was him and I told him thanks for everything he's done for this business. Tremendous talent. And to me, I was surprised at how good he looked. So, you hear all these different things as when I go to some of these shows, where I know other guys that know him, and you hear other podcasts that he's down or doing this. He looks real good. He has to do the gimmick when you speak, push in on the gimmick, but it's him. And I really thought that night at the show, I told my brother this, and I'm going to tell you this, Jeremy. They had a very packed show. They did a memorial for one of the young boys in West Virginia that passed away a couple years ago. They did a battle royal for him. And they had Bobby and Tracy and some guys I knew, like I said, and they had the FTC guys that I'm going to talk about. They all did really good. I'm going to give some of those guys, I was happy to see them on the show and getting some bookings outside the FTC. So good on them. And I'm glad these guys are staying booked. But I'll say this. I think Dennis Condrey could have whipped anyone's ass in that building that night. That's how good he looked to me. I don't think anyone want to fuck with Dennis Condrey.
I think fucking with any member of the Midnight Express would be a bad idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
I spoke to Stan. I've met Stan my very first night in Smoky Mountain as a tryout, and then he left shortly after. But through the years, I always get to say hi to him here or there. But Bobby Eaton and I, we got close. We spoken. Actually, I met him prior to going to Smoky Mountain on an independent show here or there. But then when I got to Smoky Mountain, I met him. And then we got together in WCW again. And we got to go to Vancouver for EA Sports to shoot that video. So we was up there for like a month, and Bobby and I got real close. And Cornette had told me my story was similar to Bobby's, where, you know, setting up the ring at a young boy, 14, 15 years old, hanging around the business, you know, just getting in the ring and doing stuff. And I always thought about that. And I think the world of Bobby, and he's one of those people. You know, he obviously doesn't say a whole lot. He said something that night, and Cornette said, "Well, I think that's the most we've gotten out of him in 35 years." But and I think all he said was "thank you," you know. So, but yeah, but privately, you know, he's one of these people you can talk to him, and he makes you laugh without trying to make you laugh. He'll just tell you something, and it's really funny, and he's just a good-hearted guy. And while we were talking, actually. Between the Cornette coming out with the main event and doing a proclamation and stuff earlier, someone come by and said, "Hey Bobby, you know, do you still have this in your travel bags?" And he said, "Tube socks." And he said, I got 2 weeks supply of them. And I guess they thought they was being smart or something. How about the sewing kit? And he goes, "Yep, I've got 2 sewing kits." You know, he always had something in his bags, and he was always known for giving the boys either candy or bubble gum or chewing gum. And if you needed something, go to Bobby. You got a towel? Here's 2 of them. Take a towel. You know, he always had that. And he's just a good dude, man. So it's good seeing him. And with that said, let me just give us a cheap plug here. Jeremy, do you like Amazon Prime? Because I only got 2 more things to talk about after I talk about Prime.
I love Amazon Prime. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I do too. They've got some good shows on there you can stream. Mm-hmm. You can get free shipping. I buy books. I'd buy a book that might cost $2.99 or $5.99 from a used consignment shop or a Goodwill, and I'd have to pay $3.99 for shipping. With Prime, I just pay for the book. If I find a book for a penny, they'll mail me. You have to pay the minimum, but anyway, they'll mail you the book free, and also they got that streaming service, so it's a pretty good deal. And you can help the show out by supporting us. If you're not a Prime member, you can sign up, okay? Go to tinyurl.com/BB, try Prime, and the show gets a little bit of a kickback from that. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a 30-day trial. If you don't like it, cancel. You're not out anything. The show still gets a little bit of kickback, and I think that would be really good way to help this show, help Jeremy, help myself out right now. Yeah. Jeremy, tell me a little bit more about Prime.
Well, Amazon Prime, they do have their streaming part, which is amazing. Some of my favorite shows in history are only available on Amazon Prime. Corner Gas, the funniest Canadian TV series ever made. Babylon 5, the best hard sci-fi series that was ever on television, are both available on there. You can watch them for free. When you buy things when you're an Amazon Prime member, you get free 2-day shipping. How fucking cool is that? And this is everything from tennis shoes to books to DVDs. It doesn't matter, man. As long as it's covered by Prime and you're a member, you get your shipping for free. You cannot beat that. You get free TV. You get free stuff. You cannot beat this deal. So everybody, Bobby, what was that address again?
The address is tinyurl.com/BB, try Prime. And I just got, at the first of this month, I purchased Raging Bull. Oh. I had that copy. I loaned it out. And one of my favorite movies, of course, everyone knows Robert De Niro is my favorite actor. I looked, and apparently whoever I loaned it to, or whoever, maybe Melinda, I didn't get it back. So I thought, hey, I found it for like $3.99, collector's edition, but I didn't have to pay him shipping, and I got it 2 days later, man. And it was wonderful, man. BB, try Prime. That's all I can tell you. You'll be happy. Shit'll be there. It'll be on time, and you won't have to pay for shipping. And I'm looking forward to season 3 of the Marvelous Mademoiselle. That's going to be coming out soon. I love that series. The first 2 seasons are up of that. That's something I've watched on Prime. There's rumors, because I don't know if Jeremy went and found it. I know I haven't yet, but I know it's on there. There's some places you can find some classic wrestling. Mm-hmm. They had some Memphis on there at one time. You can stream some of that stuff. Also, they give you a chance to join some other things like Roku or Showtime at a discounted price. So you can't go wrong with Prime, and you can help us out a little bit by going to tinyurl.com/BB try Prime, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Go. If you are not a member, go check it out. It is worth your time. It is. Look, 30 days for free. You got nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Bobby.
Everything to gain. Thanks.
Yeah. We only got a few minutes left
2 more
here.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make this brief. I'm going to say this. I about teared up probably Monday night. Yep, that's the time to go home, son. All right, so I'll end this real briefly. I about teared up Monday night when I wrote some notes because, as we said, we was going to record on Monday, Sunday, whatever. By the time it rolled around, I got my note. I got to see Jim Cornette, and I'm a Cornette guy. It's no secret. When we went to eat that afternoon in Charleston, West Virginia, as we were getting ready to leave, and I was looking forward to seeing Jimmy, of course, and Bobby and everyone, but we got ready to leave the restaurant there and go around a corner, and there's Cornette and Bobby and a couple of the other guys sitting there. And, man, I didn't even have to worry about going up and shaking his hand and saying hey or whatever, because I thought I wouldn't see him until the show. This totally unplanned. Cornette gets up from the table, Bobby, and gives me a hug. And I have to say this, folks, if you haven't seen Jim Cornette lately, he looks fucking great. I know his ears were burning after I spoke with him, because when he come back to the building after I did later that night, I said, Jimmy, I know your ears burning. I said, because I've told everyone how fucking good you look. He's lost weight. He looks great. Anyway, he gave me a hug, and I gave him a hug. And I have to say, man, it was the most sincere, good hug feeling I had. I'm not ashamed to say it, man. You know, I love Jim Cornette for what he's done for my career. He gave me a chance when no one else did, and he took care of me for 3 years as far as keep me around his roster. Sure, I'd get some time off here or there, go away where I wouldn't be seen, but that was awesome. So it's good to see Jim Cornette and get that hug. I always give him he knows I'm going to give him some love and support and give him a good handshake, but getting a hug went everything. With that said, I have to give one big shout out. And I'll end it on this, Jeremy. My brother, Jim, took me to the show. He drove. I'm still real leery about driving at night, even though I got these glasses in February. I'm just, that's just me. I got to get it out of my head. But he wanted to take some time. He knew about this show. He knew the Midnight was going to be there. My brother and I were huge wrestling fans growing up. We don't get to obviously watch a lot of wrestling together. We'll send each other tweets and stuff, or even direct messages about something we may have seen with old school wrestling. But we got to talk about stuff. It's like 90 miles away. From here, and we got to hang out and talk, and then we got to eat together. He got to see me interacting with all the guys that I've known through the years and watch the show. And then we got to come home and just talk some more. And it's always important to get to spend some time with your family. And it was just to use that word blessed. I don't know if you want to say that or not, but I mean, I don't use it that much. I'm just saying it was a blessing, though, to get to spend a day from like noon on with my brother, get to eat with them, hang out at a wrestling show with them, and to get to come home. It was like a 12-hour day, and it was all worth it. And I want to thank my brother personally for just being my brother, being my friend, let alone take me to a wrestling show. And I just got so much love and respect for this man. He's a chaplain for hospice, and he's got a tough-ass job. And the way he does his job, man, there's no one better. This guy's just full of so much love, and he's taught me so many lessons through the years. I can't thank him enough, but I'm thanking him on this podcast. Well, Jeremy, that's all I'm really going to say, other than, man, I'm glad we're back. And let's get back on stride and keep popping out these podcasts and get our people back involved with us, man, because we're still here. We're not going anywhere, folks.
Well, you know what, real quick, Bobby, before we go, why don't you throw out our Twitter handles again, and then I'll wrap the show.
Yes, you can find Jeremy at The Geekish Cast. You can find me at Find me anywhere. Find me. Do this again. Spit out here, Bobby. Okay. On Twitter, find Jeremy at The Geekish Cast. Find me at Bobby Blaze 744, or follow our joint account on Twitter at Bell to Bell Blaze. Tui, spit it out.
You're goddamn right. Well, Bobby, thank you for joining me. It has been fun and my pleasure as usual. And everybody else, it's been
My
your
pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been everybody else's pleasure to listen to Bell with Bobby Blaze. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey, this is Bobby Fulton of the tag team, The Fantastics, and you listen to Bell with Bobby Blaze.